And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert Whitty here on a Saturday morning. It's 9 a.m. on the Mountain Time Zone, and that means it is time for our Saturday morning Science of Mind conversation series. And I need prayer because sometimes when you turn things off at night, when you turn it back on the next morning, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And I have had a wondrous morning of trying to get things to do what they're supposed to do. And what that means is I don't have access to so many of my resources at the moment that there was no way I was able to prepare this morning to share something meaningful with you. Just could not happen. My brain is in so many other places, and most of them are in trying to recover access to a lot of things. So with that, I'm going to go do some prayer. And our workaround for the day is I'd like to share with you the conversation that Reverend Dr. Barbara Jean gave us last year at this time. So we're going to watch her on video here. How do I want to make this appear? Guess we want to do that. And yeah, here, let's check this out.
Good morning. It's Saturday, and this is the New Thought Media Network. Welcome to the Science of Mind and Spirit Conversation Series. I'm Reverend Barbara Jean Schreiner-Trudell, founder and spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and my pronouns are she, they. There is a team of us, as you probably noticed in the opening graphic, and every Saturday morning we join you here on the New Thought Media Network to share the science of mind, the principles, the practice, and more than anything else, how to apply those principles in your life today. So if you're watching live, I'd love if you would put a greeting in the chat and we can introduce you and say hello. And throughout today's show, feel free to write questions and make comments in the chat, and we'll see if we can fold them into the process. So, how does this program work? Well, from January to July, we go through the Science of Mind textbook chapter by chapter. And then in the last months of the year, we explore the articles and resources in the Science of Mind library and archives, which is available 24/7, and it helps us go even deeper. We can read more of Ernest Holmes' writing and other resources related to Science of Mind specifically. There are so many resources that we refer to, and you can find them all in the archives at scienceofmindarchives.com. Well, our topic today comes from Science Mind magazine, October 1927, and it's called The Theory of Visualization by Ernest Holmes. This particular topic interested me a lot because many of us have been creating vision boards and trying to visualize, a better life or a change in circumstance or whatever. And sometimes we're missing a really important element. And what I love about this article is how clearly Ernest Holmes states what it is that's happening and how it actually is going to work. So the reason more people do not make conscious and definite use of constructive thinking is because they do not understand the principle underlying the constructive thinking. The principle underlying the theory of visualization is that we are surrounded by a universal subjective mind which receives the impress of our thought and acts upon it. That's important. Take a moment and just check in. What are you thinking about? And is it something you would want to immediately manifest? What we think about is going to be acted upon. The words we speak, the activities of our lives, but what we're thinking, what we believe to be true, becomes a form of how our life is going to work. So when we think, we are setting a law in motion. Okay, we are moving in a way that is going to create a new life. So if I'm cranky and complaining all the time, just know that there's going to be a lot more of that coming at you because that's the way this works. So the universal subjective mind receives the impress of our thought and acts upon it, this mind being set in motion by our conscious thinking. When we think, we set the power in motion, and this power is greater than our conscious mind. We are always using laws which, in their ability to manifest, transcend all human intelligence. And when we use mental and spiritual laws, we shall find that they act in the same manner. What we're doing is, when we're visualizing, the only thing we can truly manifest is what we already know. So if we want something bigger, we must begin to expand our consciousness, expand the way we think, and move away from the negative and move forward more into something that's positive, or at least neutral in its action. The universal subjective mind should not be confused with the Spirit of God. There is a vast difference between God as spirit and God as universal subjective mind or law. So God as law is mechanical, while God as spirit is spontaneous. There is the universal, in the universe, there's a spiritual consciousness or self-knowing mind. And we find here just what we should expect to find: a personal and an impersonal element. God must be more than law, or we could not be self-knowing beings. So in the life of the individual, we find that we have a self-conscious intelligence, and that underlying this self-conscious intelligence, there's a non-choosing, non-volitional factor, which we will call the subjective mind. And in the universe, there is a presence which fills all space, which is divine intelligence, spirit, or God the Absolute. There's also a universal law which receives the impress of this spirit and acts upon it. So when we think about that, let's just break that down for a minute. If I'm focusing on the problem I currently have, it's the end of October, maybe I'm worried about paying my rent in November, or my car payment, or maybe my insurance just came due, or maybe there's something wrong in my body. I've been feeling ill for a while. What I want you to do is go back in, go within, check and see what's happening. Your body and your body of experience will reflect what it is you believe about life, what you believe about God, what you believe about yourself. What do you believe about yourself? When we're creating vision boards and we're visualizing, and we're, maybe there's one visualized technique I've seen that, you pretend you're sitting in a theater and it's all dark, and then the screen comes up and you put your dream on there. And that's great. But do you believe it? Do you believe that dream is going to manifest? Do you believe that is possible? See, if we don't believe it's possible, then truly we're not really believing in God as being with us, in us, as us, right? I am the I am. So what we want to remember and really be conscious of is that the thoughts that we're thinking are creating the life that we're living. And if there's something in your life that you're not fond of, well, you have the power to shift it, to change it, to alter it, to make it different. And how you do that is by training your mind to think in a new way. Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. So the key then to success and happiness is the conscious control of thought and a continuous radiation of constructive thinking and acting. This key will unlock the treasure house of the infinite and will reward us with undreamed of opportunity and experiences. But they're not always going to come out the way we think they should. I remember years ago putting a vision board up, and I needed a new car, and I was dreaming about, what car am I going to get? There's so many out there, so many different brands. But I knew that I wanted a hybrid. I wanted something that was a little more, I don't know, a little better for the environment, I suppose, or I could save money on gas. I'm not sure which one was most important to me. But in looking for that at the time, the only photo I could find was of a, let me see, it was a Honda Civic. And so I put that picture on my vision board, but at the bottom I wrote this or something better. And a month or two later, I went out and started test driving cars. And what I was test driving, which is interesting, right? I put this on the vision board, but here's what I was test driving. I was test driving minivans. I know. Got a car on there, a hybrid on there, and I'm out testing minivans. Well, we had a young daughter, and it seemed like a minivan would be, kind of good for the family. So I tried a few, and then I called the Toyota dealership and said I'd like to test drive their Sienna. Now, the Sienna was a bit out of my price range, but I thought, I want to test drive it anyway. And it was a beautiful ride. And as we were coming back to the dealership, I noticed on the parking lot an apple green Toyota Camry hybrid. It was the first year that they made a hybrid, and they made it in the Camry. And I looked at that car and I said to the salesperson, I said, work out the numbers on that one. And he looked at me like I lost my mind. So he worked out the numbers. We went for a test drive. And because of the gas savings and such, plus I think there was some benefits from the government for buying a hybrid, it was very affordable. And that's the car I ended up buying. The journey that we're on sometimes will take us in a little bit of circuitous routes. But on that vision board, I did have a hybrid car on there, and I got something even better. The journey that we're on, as we can begin to visualize, what we want to do is visualize in a way that allows for space. It allows for room for it to be maybe a little different than we pictured it. And when it's different than we pictured it, I want to tell you, it's always better. So when I was single and, wishing I could find a spouse, I had a couple dates and they were not great. I'm sure most of you know what that's like. And on my list of, things that I want, one of them was, a very tall man, 6'5", that'd be awesome. Well, I'm only 5'2", so maybe not. But it's interesting that I met my husband shortly thereafter, and he's 5'6". So maybe the universe is dyslexic. I'm not so sure. But what we want to do is really look at our lives and look at the way we think and take the time to begin to shift that. In the article, Ernest Holmes writes that we have brought upon ourselves all the troubles through our ignorance of the law, which of itself is the law of liberty, but which we have misused through misunderstanding the true meaning of life. We must reverse the entire process of our thinking and learn to think for ourselves in terms of spiritual valuation, which alone are enduring and real. So visualization means to create a mental picture of what it is we desire, what it is we want to do, and the universal law will execute that. But again, we want to remember that everything that's happening depends on our present state of thought. It is limited to previous experiences and impressions. There's times when we will be out and about and, maybe we're telling a friend about a new business we're thinking of starting. And they look at us and go, well, 10 years ago, my friend Joni, well, she tried that and it didn't work. So I would suggest you not do that. Anybody ever hear those stories? When we are recognizing our oneness with God, oneness with this universal divine energy, when we acknowledge that and believe it, right? There's the challenge. We've got to believe it. When we get to that place, then what happens is we begin to manifest really quickly. Now, the thing is, we're manifesting all the time. It's just we're not manifesting what we want. We're manifesting what we don't want. And why does that happen? Because our thoughts are, oh man, how am I going to pay my rent? I'm so broke right now. We sit back and say, I'm so broke right now. The universe goes, yes. You see, the universal subjective mind, which is what moves the vision into reality, That's the doer. That's the thing that makes it all happen. It is present to that idea, I am broke. It's not present to the idea that I wish for something else. Wishing is not going to get us very far. But that desire, that deep desire, that willingness to take time to meditate, to do treatment, to begin to shift our consciousness, to look at the life we're living and go, wow, this is what I created. Don't be angry about it or resentful of it, but look at it and go, wow, look how powerful I am. I created this. Is there something I'd like instead? Then let me take time in meditation. Let me get a clear picture of who I am so that I can begin to mold into my existence, to take this idea, which is truly plastic, and allow it to fit into this beautiful mold of a prosperous, healthy, dynamic life existence. When we can do that and believe it, the universe begins to pull it into our experience. Now, we don't get to set the timeline. Some things happen instantly. Some things take a minute. Well, they take a minute because of the world we live in, because of where we are. You know, there's the element of time here, which is not part of that universal. Well, I guess it is. It's our fabrication of how a day goes. But when we sit back and go, here's what I want, and I want it yesterday. Well, that wanting again gets you more wanting. That's the thing you put into mind. So we want to state things really, really clearly. A person, by the art of visualization, can bring into their experience only that which they can mentally image. And they can only image that which they know. Perhaps this is why Solomon said, with all thy getting, get understanding. So as we study this teaching, we have to go beyond that. Ernest Holmes once wrote or said, you know, all of this intelligence, all of this knowledge is absolutely useless. Not his words, mine, but it's kind of what he said. It's useless unless you put it into practice. And how do you practice it? Every day, in every way. What does it say in the Bible? You know, pray 70 times 7 or something. Not a big Bible person, but there's something in that. It's like we have to change the pattern. We had patterns installed when we were children. We were told things from teachers and parents and siblings and relatives and neighbors and the news and the media. We got all this information and it's filling this space. But if you look at the world out there, is that really the type of energy, the type of consciousness you want to live in? And if not, you have the power to change it. There's a power for good in the universe and you can use it. In fact, you are using it, but you can use it consciously to create what it is you truly desire. So it's time to shift that. I had a funny experience once when I was studying this teaching back in the many days ago when I was learning this. And as I'm driving down a highway in Calgary, there was, there's rubber on the road that transports and blown tires. And you see that all over the place all the time. And I've been driving for many, many years. And I thought, wow, isn't it interesting? I have never seen a transport truck blow a tire. Just a thought. And seconds later, the truck beside me blew its outside tire. The rubber slammed against my car. Scared me like you can't imagine, but it taught me something. Check your thoughts. Check your thoughts and check your thoughts. Not once, not twice. Check your thoughts moment by moment. I gave an assignment in one of my classes. I'm not sure if it was in the text, probably was, but the assignment was to set an alarm that would go off every hour. And when it goes off, just check in. What was I just thinking? And make a note of it. Do that for a week. You might be surprised by what you find. And the bonus is if you find that you're complaining about the neighbors, complaining about drivers, anybody do that? Get out on the road and complain about the other drivers. Whatever it is that you're complaining about, whatever it is you're doing, what you're thinking, that is what's creating and building the life that you're living. And you have the power to change that. And I know you can. Of course, I know you can. All right. Plotinus said something to the effect that our work is always done better when we face the spirit, even though our back is turned to our work. Again, remembering this divine intelligence, remembering the creative impulse of the universe, recognizing that there is one thing going on and we live, move, and have our being in it. It is the cells of our body, the activity of our mind. It is the life that we're living. God is not separate from us. It is being us. And it has allowed us free will. So we can take this infinite power and we can, because we don't fully understand it or fully accept that it's possible, we can misuse it. And that's what creates the challenges that we have in our life experience. But the truth is, we are here to experience living. And, there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be things going on. But it's important for us to really look at what it is we're thinking about and how we're doing it. He goes on in here by saying it is necessary then to find higher visions and broader vistas of thought if one is to transcend their previous experiences. I need to read a little. I need to spend time in meditation. I need to do my inner work where I find the truth of who I am. And then I have to live that truth. How many of us are living from shoulds? I should do this. I should do that. I should be a doctor. I should go to medical school. I should marry this person because we've been together for a while. I should have children. I'm female. I should have children. Who said? There's a lot of shoulds out there. And I want you to check in whenever you feel like you should do something. Check in and ask yourself, is that my should? Or is that somebody else's that they gave to me that I took on? I always look at should. When I think to myself, oh, I should do this, I usually say no to whatever it is. Because if I think I should, there's a part of me that doesn't want to do it. And I need to just honor that. It's necessary for us to honor where we are, to honor who we are. So visualization is always incomplete unless the thought is first impressed with the greater possibility and made receptive to the divine influx. So when we do this in harmony with the divine, when we allow ourselves to go into our spiritual mind treatment work and really sit in the energy of that divine presence, that first step of recognition, that recognition step, we could spend all day in that step. There is one power, one infinite, creative, divine, glorious being of love and light. It's omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. And when we feel that in our bodies, when we experience that, it's remarkable. And that first step should not be rushed over. We want to sit in it. We want to make sure that we're connected to that idea and that thought, and then begin to acknowledge that if it's everywhere present and all knowing and all powerful, it's right here. And if it's right here, then I am powerful. You are powerful. Let's stop playing small. It's time to step up. Yes, it's time to really step into the vast universe of possibility and say yes to your life. Be you. Everybody else is taken. So just be you and celebrate that. He goes on to say, deep within our subjective mentality are imprinted the memories of previous experiences hidden away in the inner recesses of thought, generally unknown to us. And they are the silent cause of our outward conditions. So, that past stuff that's been going on. My mom said this to me when I was 3. My dad yelled at me when I was 4, and I had to be called to the principal's office when I was 11, and my parents divorced when I was 11, and oh man, life's been rough. Now we can live in that story, and many of us do. I know I did for a really long time. Luckily, I've given it up now, but that idea of living in that past, yes, the past happened. Yes, it was a bunch of experiences that brought me to now. I like where I am now. I like who I am now. So why would I complain about anything that brought me here? My history, the experiences I've had, the abuse, the feelings of grief and loneliness, the deaths that have occurred, all of these things that have happened. I can't do anything about that. They happened. But what they did was they shaped me. It's like, when the water's flowing in the river, the rocks become very smooth. The water wears them down to a smooth finish. When we look at all the rough edges that we've had, and we move into this teaching, we begin to smooth out those rough edges. We begin to acknowledge that there's a better way. There's something more that we can do and be and have. And so we welcome that. We come to a place of, good morning, Peter. We come to a place of acknowledging our existence. We come to a place of realizing that the life that we lived brought us here. And if here isn't perfect, that's okay, because nothing is. Well, we're created perfect, whole, and complete. However, our experiences show up a little different than that. And that's okay. They're experiences. We're meant to have them. I think we incarnated here because we wanted to experience something. So whatever it is, be grateful for the life that is. And know that this law is always acting, and it is going to continue to bring to us whatever it is we believe we deserve. I just bought a hoodie, and on the front it says, "You are enough." And that's a great reminder. And I love it when I'm talking to somebody wearing that hoodie and they read that, because it's speaking to them, right? You are enough. You're not broken. You're not flawed. On the back of the sweatshirt, it says, "Dear person standing behind me, the world is a better place because you're in it. Love the person in front of you." Sharing love, sharing vision, sharing possibility, that's what begins to change the energy and the consciousness, to bring us into a place of healing those past things that hurt us, that maybe we're still grieving over. And I'm not saying don't grieve, don't feel it, like really feel it. Because when you do, that's what moves it. That's what shifts it from sitting in the back and causing destruction to a place of acknowledgement that, whoa, I've got grief, I've got sadness, loneliness. And I sit in that energy and I allow myself to feel it, not calling it bad or wrong, but simply being with it. And what's fascinating is it begins to move. And I feel so much better because the movement is grace. This journey is so much more than what we think sometimes. But when we consciously use the law, we are neutralizing false images. The things we were told as kids that we maybe misinterpreted. I have a friend who has spent a lifetime, this person's probably about 70 now, but spent a lifetime thinking that he was ugly. And the reason he thought that, and it was not at all true, he's a very handsome man. Tall, dark, and handsome. I mean, really, can't go wrong with that, can you? Anyway, very handsome man. But nobody's really attracted to him. And why? Because he thinks he's ugly. And he thinks that because when he was a young child, him and his brother ran to answer the door when a friend came over to visit, a friend of their dad's. And when they opened the door, the friend said, "Ah, the good-looking one and the tall one." What landed for him is my brother's good looking and I'm ugly. That's not what the man said, but that was the interpretation of a child's mind. But that interpretation has lived a lifetime now. We don't need to live a lifetime of struggle and pain. We can heal that. We can change that now. Doesn't mean there won't be, trips and falls and things that happen along the way. Of course there will. It's life, right? There's other people in it. There's many things to navigate. But when we come from a place of conscious thought and our connection with God as our source, as our substance, as our very existence, when we start to live from that idea, we begin to morph our life into a new reality. Now, it doesn't mean everything's perfect. It doesn't mean we're multimillionaires driving, Bentleys or whatever. What it does mean is there's a sense of peace, comfort, satisfaction, and joy. Life feels good. When a challenge comes up, I can handle this. Of course I can. I have the presence within me. The absolute is being me. Of course I can handle whatever challenge comes. I've had back issues for a while. And of course, I've been treating about them. And I had 2 years that were great. And then I fell again and ta-da, it's back. But here's what's interesting. I hurt my shoulder and I went to see the surgeon and didn't need surgery, but did need a bunch of work done on it. Still going to physio. But I sat back and I said to this guy, because he's an orthopedic surgeon, I said, what about my spine? What about my back? And he said, oh, yeah, we do that surgery all the time. He said, I don't do it, but I know someone who does. So he said, I'll send a referral. That was on Wednesday. On Friday, I got a phone call from that doctor's office saying, can we see you on Wednesday, the following Wednesday? We're talking 1 week. I don't know what medical's like in the US, but in Canada, you do not see specialists within a week. It does not happen. Saw him. He booked my surgery for January 10th of 2025. We're talking, 3 months? Not even 3 months, about 2.5. I look at that and I go, wow, how does that happen? It happens this way. The healing doesn't always happen the way we think it should. Like, okay, now I'm fine. No, it doesn't always happen that way because we got stuff running in the background we don't even know is running there. But here's the thing. If we continue to think along the lines of possibility, when we open our hearts and minds to love, to oneness, to a sense of connection with the divine and everything else on the planet, what happens is we start to see a new experience in our life. Focusing on what we truly desire, focusing on loving ourselves so completely. By doing that, we actually free ourselves from the chains that have been holding us back. And we create something remarkable. And we don't know what it's going to look like. And that's the fun of life, right? We don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't even know if we'll be here tomorrow. But right now we are. And in this now moment, we have power. In this now moment, we can create. He goes on to say, now we know that God is perfect and a complete unit. Consequently, if we would think as God thinks, imagine that. We must see the world in that unity of good, that perfection of being. And when we do that, that's when things begin to shift. Unity then is the basis of all our thinking. Goodness must be paramount if we are to visualize correctly and effectively. God is harmony, and harmony is beauty. It is unity, harmony, beauty, a perfect adjustment to the whole and to all of its parts. We must always bear this in mind, ever reaching out and up to the more perfect image. God is absolute and unconditioned in every respect, and our thought must never inject any belief in opposites. God knows no opposites. God knows only that God is and is all, and we must try to believe in nothing less than the all. There's so many things that happen in life that we can't fully explain. I knew a woman in my very first church, and she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer and had a fairly large mass. The doctor, of course, wanted to do a mastectomy right away and start chemo. And she said, "You know what? Could you give me a month? I just want to work on this myself." The doctor didn't like it, but of course, she's not going to have the surgery. She's not going to have it. She goes away and she did two things. She changed her diet and she worked on forgiving her ex-husband. So she goes back after the month. The mass is about half its size. The doctor said, "We still need to do surgery. The cancer's still there." And she said, "Give me one more month." She went back after the second month, again, continuing her forgiveness work and her diet. And when she went back, the mass was gone. That's one form of healing. I remember in my early training doing treatment with a young man who had lung cancer. And he walked in with his oxygen tank, and I thought, oh, he's going to want me to treat for healing. But no, that's not what he asked for. He said, "I just really want it to be okay. I want my family to know I'm okay, to be okay." He was complete. We did treatment together. Of course, I treated my own mind first because I had to get into a new frame of mind. I was not in the frame of mind to do what he asked. So I had to shift my own thinking. And I did that by staying in that first step of treatment a little bit longer till my mind was clear and open so that I could hold this young man in the loving space that he had requested. And he passed 2 weeks later. The journey that we're on is not about getting it perfect. It's not about always doing everything right. It's really about being present in each moment, being present with each other, thinking along the lines of possibility rather than limitation. Instead of looking at something and going, "It's so hard," there's another 4-letter word that would work. It's so easy. I just don't know how to do it yet, but I know it's easy. I know there's a way. And what's fascinating is all of a sudden somebody who knows how to do it shows up and does it for you. Or you find a course that teaches you exactly how to do it, or you go online to YouTube and ta-da, there's a video that says, here's how you do it. We are brought everything that we need. We all think about the law of attraction, and law of attraction is interesting. It's just that most of us don't fully understand it because the law of attraction can only bring to you who you are. Yeah. What is it you believe about you? What is it you believe about life? That will be showing up in your world. That's the mirror that's going to be shining back at you. The thing is, we're powerful. And this is more than holding thoughts and has nothing whatsoever to do with suggestion in any of its form. Suggestion is a disease from which we should be delivered before it delivers us to the judge and we become condemned by the open confession of duality. So we're shifting our mind from the idea of duality to the idea of unity, oneness. That means you and I are one. What I do in my life affects everything. If my consciousness is high, that helps to lift the consciousness of everything and everyone. If my consciousness is in the ditch, I'm pulling down that energy. Now, I'm one person out of 8 billion, so it's not going to be that noticeable right away. But when we have a whole lot of people doing that, we start to see wars and violence and hatred and separation. But when we come together in oneness, we start to shift that. And if enough of us do it, then love becomes a force for really beautiful, positive change. At the bottom of this writing today, there was a treatment written by Marie Deal, and I wanted to close off today with that treatment. It's short and beautiful, and I think it's just a great way for us to end this lesson. So please join with me in consciousness. That living spirit almighty within me, which is God, is my life, which includes health and strength, activity and vitality. Every organ of my body is a spiritual idea and functions according to a perfect law of harmony. Therefore, every part of my being is perfect now. I am the perfect expression of perfect life now. The living spirit almighty within me, which is God, is my supply. It prospers all my affairs and is limitless in supplying my good. For I draw on that inexhaustible substance of spirit which knows no limit. Abundance is my birthright, and I claim it now. That living spirit almighty within me, which is God, is my intelligence. It governs, guides, and controls all my ways. My every desire is already complete. I have but to acknowledge it and claim it as being an accomplished fact now. So I go forth in confidence and assurance and with the positive conviction that God is and I am. And because I am, I can do, and I do. And so it is. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Peter. It's wonderful to see you. And for anybody else who might have been watching online or, pardon me, through the, what do you call it? Oh, YouTube. That's what it is. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And next week we will be back with another incredible lesson for Science, Mind, and Spirit Conversations. Oh, pardon me. A little bit of I think maybe a little bit of an allergy attack or something, but I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to do this. And let other people know if you enjoyed today and you love what we're doing. It is a great way to introduce people to our teaching. So our time is up, and I hope you'll be back next week. And also check out the programming on the New Thought Media Network. There's a lot of really great things going on. I have a couple of shows on there. Out of My Mouth on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, and The Joy Show on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern. So you might want to think about checking out those shows and many others, many others. And consider making a donation, a recurring donation. Tongue-tied. The programming relies on our generosity. So for every one of us who contributes, we keep this station alive. And looking at what's on the television today, I think this is the place to be. I really do. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Peace and love. Have a great day.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.